Saffron Baggallay. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Michelle Cheen from the Wisdom Seeker Society, and today we are launching a few things, one of which is EnneaQuest, where we are going to tap a little bit more into both Saffron's vast knowledge and insights of the Enneagram, and we're kind of going to look at it from the Wisdom Seeker Society perspective. So we're going to use our themes, like this month is mastery. So we are going to unveil the Enneagram with Saffron. Saffron, thank you so much for joining me, all the way from the Western Cape, where it's very cold and wet, apparently. How are you?
Yes, it is, and windy, but nice. Thank you. Yes, definitely wintry.
Yes. Oh. And I'm very honored to have you with me. You have introduced me, well, you have brought me to understand and love the Enneagram almost as much as you do. I think you are very special in your obsession, might be a word that comes up with the Enneagram and understanding human behavior. Tell me a little bit more about you. You have a background. I know you have a background in sociology, and I know you're an amazing keynote speaker. You have different courses in your personal mastery lab. I'll put your website in the bottom here in a minute. But what drew you to this tool?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. What a big question. um, so, firstly, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome.
It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I'm really excited to get questions and comments from your listeners because that's what really guides my conversation. So what drew me to this tool? So I have always, like all my life, as long as I can remember, from a kid, I always say, like, I wasn't really ever a kid. I don't remember doing the dumb things and playing outside and finding the same things as other children found entertaining. I've always been much more interested all my life in, if you don't look like me, if you don't sound like me, if you're not the same age as me, if you're just like different from me, like I've always wanted to know what your world is like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always, from little girl, probably I've actually got proof on old home videos that my mother took on those, like in the 70s even, and early 80s, in apartheid South Africa. I was that little girl who was always going up to Black people and like wanting to hang out with them. And I loved that. And that was kind of odd in the era in which I grew up, which I was very candidly, I mean, obviously it's not right, but it was what it was. So I've always been fascinated by people.
Yeah.
When I was about 17, I found, like, I came across this subject matter that I'd never heard of before, called sociology and social science and studying humans. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. This is the answer. Like there's a real university degree in studying humans. I was like, sign me up. I've always studied humans. And that's where it all began. But I was a very unconscientious student. So I was very good at the things that I was really interested in, but I wasn't an all-round like good student,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what really captured my imagination, I think, with sociology and social science and studying humans is that I read somewhere that whatever it is that you're going through and whatever it is that I'm going through, there are millions of other people around the world going through that exact same thing right now. And that like completely fascinated me.
And there's a lot in that as to how do we process that. So I'm gonna draw it back to the Enneagram and the tool that you, I think, have been drawn to so much in what it measures or what it shows us, in its essence. It's kind of, and please correct me when I use the wrong words or say it in a not the right way, but it shows us where our woundings are.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely correctly. It shows us how we cope with our
With
wounding.
yes, yes. See, I knew there was a missing part, which is quite important and big. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm always really careful to say to people that we don't, like, our Enya type doesn't define our story. Our story, our life experience, our experiences throughout life, they happen
Mm,
through the interpretation of a particular lens,
mm,
which I believe personally, I mean, I'm sure not all Enneagram teachers agree, but I believe have something to do with some kind of karmic or past life or soul lesson, whatever your language is, whatever your belief systems are,
mm,
around this ego wounding. It literally that creates this, what in the narrative Enneagram we talk about as the coping strategy of
mm,
this wounding, and how we get this in an experience or a set of experiences that we interpret. It it's all about perception and
yeah,
interpretation and expression. That's the point of the Enneagram, which so many people miss. Is
yeah.
it's not about behavior.
And it's
It's not.
also not necessarily about personality. It's not a typing
Oh,
tool. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle, for saying that. That's like my biggest bugbear. Is that like, I can't stand it when people go, oh, well, I don't like typologies, so I don't want to learn the Enneagram. And I'm like, well, if just saying that tells me that you're either ignorant of typologies or you're ignorant of the Enneagram or both.
Yeah.
And then, like, and I'm talking about people with PhDs and like people
Mhm.
who talk about this stuff and then give the Enneagram a bad name. And I'm like, if you're giving the Enneagram a bad name, you've either been badly taught or
Mm.
you fundamentally don't understand and you have a bias, and you should address that unconscious bias. That's,
Yeah.
you can
But
talk
it's also people, people like to have boxes. So we have a
about
tool and there is a number, but it's also not just a number. And this is what I loved learning with you, is that there's a code. So,
that.
what is your code? And I found a lot of understand. I've done every single typology and just about every single psychometric test and every single whatever you want to have to look at. Um, and for me, the understanding lay in that code that I'm a type 4, but I'm not all type 4s are the same. So I'm a type 4 with a wing 5. So I like to find information, but I'm also self-praise, subtype, which makes me a little bit anxious and nervous for no reason. It feels like sometimes, and the whole picture doesn't even show me what I am. It's just why I behave or react in certain ways at certain times.
Yes,
Mm,
it's exactly that. It's unpacking, why are certain things so important to you?
mm,
Why do you need certain things? Why do certain things matter? Why is it that you need, and basics like behaviors and
mm,
beliefs and things like self-praise. I mean, the reason why the self-praise is more anxious is because safety and security is a preoccupation.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
getting hurt again, being nurtured,
mm,
being taken care of, having the means to do that.
yeah,
These
yeah,
are part of the sort of what I call the woundings or the story of the self-praise
mm,
narrative that's
mm,
dominant. And I think the beautiful thing about the Enneagram is it gives us this, I suppose, this language to be able to go, oh, there it is again. Okay, good. That's my dominant. Okay, so which is my dormant? So how can I balance them? And that's the work. And that's why I think it becomes such a magical, practical tool to learn
mm,
in for example, personal development program like
mm.
the likes of which you did with
Yes,
me. And
yes,
that's why, and also talking about all the other typologies, supposedly, and psychometrics and all the rest of it, I do think that the Enneagram, and I know that I am biased, I'm aware of my
Just a little bit.
but I do think that its distinction is its capacity to be so versatile across culture, gender, religion, organizational hierarchies, family dynamics. It's really powerful in so many contexts.
And that's the word I was looking for, context. So you can use it in business, like you do a lot of team buildings in businesses and things like that. But it's also an awareness tool. It's self-awareness. It has a spiritual dimension to it, which I'm very interested in, of course. Where does it all come from? Because you're born with your code, and what put it there? How did it, where are you bringing it from? So just if we have a quick overview of the Enneagram has Ennea 9. I think gram is written, translated. So it's 9 lead types.
Yeah.
Walk me through.
So the word Ennea is 9, as you say, ancient Greek for 9, but grammy is lines connecting us.
Yes.
And so actually that symbol, if you break it up into the ancient Greek, which is a big influencer of the ancient Enneagram, that symbol actually means like 9 connected energies, really. So since this is out of my corporate, this is after hours. This is
yes.
I'm going to talk to the Enneagram the way I want to talk to it, not necessarily my mandated language in corporates, which is, as you say, where I spend most of my day. But this is for me the beauty of it from a spiritual perspective, especially, but also from a personal mastery. We're talking about mastery unveiled.
Yeah,
it's to unveil the ego and really peel it away, so that ultimately we can find our essence. That is the purpose of the Enneagram.
So we don't always like that, do we?
Well, no, obviously it's going to be hard, but that's why it is unlike no other typology or personality profiling tool or psychometric or spiritual whatever. It really is unique in its versatility, but it's, the way I teach it anyway, to become aware of the body and the Enneagram sitting in the body. So for the scientists, we all have different neurochemical makeup, different types of different neurochemical makeup. For the spirituals and the woo-woos, different Enneagram types have very different energies and focuses of attention and auras and all of that kind of thing. And when you learn the Enneagram excessively, as I have, like you say, you begin to see really holistically that they all are intertwined and yet have such an important role. So the Enneagram, to talk you through it, to provide an overview, basically in a nutshell, works on what we call the law of 3. You'll see that it always starts with that symbol with 9 different types, 9 different coping strategies, 9 different ways of being in the world, 9 different fixations and habits and whatever. So lots of different schools of the Enneagram use different language. And then you'll see first, if you learn the Enneagram, and certainly if you learn it with me, that we then break that 9 up. We divide it into 3, which gives us 3 sets, or 3 what we call triads of 3. And those triads, and if I could bring it back into the neuroscience for those of you who are listening, that's maybe important, is that we now know that we have 3 distinct brains. We have the gut brain, the heart brain, and the mind brain. In other words, clusters of neurons, billions and billions of neurons, where there's a lot of communication happening around very specific information. And we now know that the heart brain, for example, measures sort of 8 meters away. If we switch it on, if we tune in, if we're aware, if we're present. But a lot of us aren't. We're very distracted. And then, of course, the gut brain, we now know the importance of serotonin, and that food, dictates mood, and our gut brain, that stabilizer, that calming brain that all of us seem to be out of touch with today, is another very important brain. So the first thing that we realize is that the 9, the 8, and the 1 have this kind of complex, distorted, resistant, stroke, overactive relationship with the gut brain.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that as the instinct. And then the heart brain, the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s, that's the triad that you belong to, Michelle, as a lead type 4. You know, there's this kind of distortion and this preoccupation, this egoic delusion around their feelings and what feelings belong to me and what I'm really feeling. And so that's, you know, often misunderstood when people learn the Enneagram. And then with the mind brain, the 7s, the 6s, and the 5s, of which I belong, that triad, the head types, you know, we have this kind of overactive mind that says, don't ever really relax because the world isn't safe and, you know, you aren't safe. And so rather have this overactive mind and thinking all the time that says, you know, what else should you be protective of? So that's the starting point. And then we just keep it breaking it down into 3s. And then so each type, so you're a 4, for example, and you've already mentioned, we break it, you know, those triads then get broken into 3 different types. And then within those, within each type, there are 3 what we call subtypes, because every human, all humans, and as you said, I study humans for a living, so it's and all humans have this instinct, really, this almost animalistic instinct to survive. That again gets distorted through our experience, and this one is particularly governed or distorted or shaped by our psychological experience of childhood. Really, what was the relationship that we have with our parents, with our primary caregivers, whether that was the nurturing figure or the protective figure. So again, I really appreciate the sort of complexity and yet the simplicity of the Enneagram. It's able to explain so much in a very, for me, practical way, so that we don't have to go to medical school or become a psychologist or understand human behavior as a professional to be able to sort of really, as you said, navigate marriage and parenthood and work and sales and whatever in a much richer way.
Yeah.
Because my friend Suzette often says it gives us a GoPro.
Yeah.
And that GoPro is this map that I often talk about. So the Enneagram, for those of you listening, it's a 9-point map.
But so interesting, and I think it's so overlooked as to all the connections, the lines between the stress points and the wings and the subtypes and the interplay between these, and how we kind of enjoy the middle bits. I can't believe we're kind of heading towards the end, because we're going to keep these short. Can you believe it? And we are going to keep going. So we have 9 of these planned. This is our launch, and I am very proud to show and present a introduction to the Enneagram course by the wonderful Saffron, which will now be available on the Wisdom Tree, is the Wisdom Seekers platform. And I'll pop the links everywhere at the end, but you can go onto my website, Instinctive Living, and go to Inner Wisdom Enneagram. You'll find a link there towards the top where you can take a test on Saffron's website, which is free, and it's very easy for you to find your lead type. And still, I think this is the trickiest part of the Enneagram, is that finding, that knowing, that understanding and connecting with your lead type, because it's not always so easy to just go, oh, I'm a that.
Yeah. But I want to just jump in here, Michelle, if you don't mind, and say to those of you listening who are going to do this, which I hope lots of you do, this is not about nailing the type.
Yeah.
This is about exploring the code and really unveiling what we discover about ourselves.
Yeah. Which is the journey that we're on.
Yeah, exactly. It's so exciting.
Thank you so much, Saffron. It's
Yeah.
way too short, and I love it. Thank you for your energy and your wisdom. And
Yeah.
I will see you again next month, in the beginning of next month, so which I don't have the exact date, but I will share it and hope that others can join and ask questions, share your lead type, share what you think or feel or want to know about the Enneagram. We have an expert in the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.